Nothing I'm saying here is remotely controversial among New Testament scholars. But
yes, it is very controversial.
No, it's controversial for people like you, not for New Testament scholars.
Study Daniel Wallace down in New Orleans.
You can cite one or two if you want to, but if you go to earlychristianwritings.com, if you go...
Writings of John Lennox, Professor Emeritus in Mathematics at Oxford University. Sure. Read about the first woman president of MIT.
Okay.
Susan Hockworth. She's a follower of Christ. These are brilliant.
So even if...
So for you to minimize Christians as being a bunch of narrow-minded fundamentalists who can't study, that's really, really incredibly detrimental.
Sir, I did not.
Yes, you did.
No, sir, I did not. That's a blatant lie. I did not care. If you're just going to try and trash everything I say because I'm pointing out what New Testament scholars say and that you don't agree with them, and if you're going to try and shut up.
Hold on one sec.
If you're going to try and characterize that as me painting Christians as credulous rubes, that is dishonest and not true. I have fought against that repeatedly, and you of all people should know that.
Why did you quote the Twitter message that you got? Why did you quote that, Matt? If you're such an open-minded, thinking human being, why did you quote that very, very questionable Twitter? You want me to answer it, or are you going to ask me 4 times? Because that happened this week. It is someone making claims about Christianity. It is someone who participates in this chat, and I specifically said that you may not agree with it. But what you have to acknowledge is that Christianity, at the individual level, is made up of a bunch of different claims with that you guys don't all agree on. That has nothing to do with who's credulous, who's a buffoon, who's confused. I don't know. I have no. Christians disagree on a lot of things. So what on earth does that have to do with Jesus Christ? Nothing. Muslims disagree. That has nothing to do with Muhammad. They're Shiites and Sunnis. Tells you nothing about Muhammad. Right. Sure, there are disagreements among Christians. Sure, there are disagreements among Muslims. Sure, there are disagreements among atheists. Tells you nothing about truth and reality. Tells you that there are people who disagree. So what? What's your point?
The point is the fact that people disagree about foundational things within Christianity mean that we need to get to a definition of what is true and what isn't true, because 2 different Christians will tell you 2 different things and say that they're true, and they will disagree on those things. If we're going to say Christianity is true, why are those things different? I didn't bring this to, and I repeatedly pointed it out. First of all, I find it ridiculous and amusing, and I figured that you would very easily say, no, I don't buy into the notion that there's 5 generals of hell and 2 of them are responsible for lesbian sex. But what criteria are you going to use to determine the truth of what you call Christianity that would exclude what she thinks it is?
That Twitter that you used was a sad commentary on the stuff that you like to dabble in, Matt. That's scary. That is really scary. You know very well that there are not 5 generals in hell. You've read the Bible. So what on earth? Why would you stoop to that, Matt, and try and use that as a point? I mean, it's ridiculous.
So now you're saying that this tweet is about something that I dabble in. I had nothing to do with this.
You read it. And
yes.
You put it forth in our debate. You're using it. And it's embarrassing, Matt. Totally embarrassing.
It doesn't embarrass me. The reason you're embarrassed is because I just asked you for what criteria would exclude that, and you have none. Because you trust the reliability of the Bible.
Nowhere in the Bible does it say there are 5 generals in hell.
It doesn't say there's not, does it?
What? You got to be kidding. It talks about hell.
You don't have. What is your methodology? What is your methodology that excludes that?
Very simple. Whenever I read any book, to interpret accurately means to read in context and to respect literary style. And by reading in context and by respecting literary style, there is no way that you can come away from reading the New Testament saying the New Testament teaches there are 5 generals in hell.
Okay.
Preposterous. And that you even stoop to that level, Matt, is a sad
stoop to what level? I apologize. I'm really confused here, Cliff. I've asked for methodology. I've asked for methodology, and you keep accusing me of stooping. If you're just going to be a jackass, I will continue to talk over you every time you try to slander me because you won't defend your beliefs.
Oh, I'm defending him all the time, Matt.
No, you're not. You're asserting them. You're
No,
preaching. You haven't provided a single bit of evidence or methodology, and all you've done every time I raise an issue is say that I'm stooping or I'm dabbling or I'm misrepresenting Christians as stupid. I'm sorry that you don't have a robust methodology that would shine and show the truth of Christianity while demonstrating that Islam is not true, but you don't. If you did, you would have presented it.
I already have presented it to you. The resurrection of Christ
is not a fact.
Evidence. Now, who's interrupting who, Matt?
I'm interrupting you.
The resurrection of Jesus Christ is overwhelming evidence that Christ is reliable. The evidence of a sinless life that he lived. He could look his enemies in the face in John chapter 8 and say, which one of you can prove me guilty of sin? And his enemies were silent. The Apostle John, who knew him intimately for 3 years, could write, in him is no sin. When you read the Sermon on the Mount, those are the teachings of an ethical genius. Jesus was an ethical genius.
Jesus was an ethical genius.
He died on a cross, loving and forgiving his enemies. You're confronted by a guy who taught an amazingly high ethical standard and lived up to that standard. The evidence for Christ is so robust, it's embarrassing. There is no one who comes even close to Christ in credibility, in trustworthiness. And you know it, if you think about it.
No, sir, I don't. And you can stop claiming what I know, because that's also dishonest. What I find,
if you'll with an open mind look at it,
so now your explanation is that I'm just not doing it with an open mind. Will you ever stop addressing me and what you think of me and actually present evidence for a resurrection?
Fine. The evidence for the resurrection is he really died. And a Roman soldier took a spear and jammed into the side.
How do you know that?
And an issue of watery serum flowed out separated from the side of Christ. We read in the Gospel of John. He was dead. They took his body off the cross. They anointed it with perfume, wrapped it in burial cloth, and laid it in the tomb, not a secret hideout tomb, a very well-known tomb, the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. His disciples dispersed in disillusionment. There was no Passover plot. And 3 days later, he appeared risen from the dead to a group of women. And then over a period of 40 days, he appeared to over 500 people. And those people, many of whom were willing to die for what they claimed to have seen. The dead Christ.
The 500?
And for the past 2,000 years, people have claimed to have met this Jesus Christ and that he has changed their lives. Preeminent among them would be the Saul of Tarsus, who met Christ on the road to Damascus and had an incredible conversion experience and followed Christ. So there's overwhelming evidence that Christ was dead historically, and historically he rose from the dead.
Is any of that overwhelming evidence that you think you just cited not from the Bible?
Yes, I listed already. So you're not listening. I listed the names.
No, sir.
With Clement, Bishop of Antioch. Ignatius.
None of those people are attesting to the truth of anything that you just said. Those people are attesting to the fact that people believed those things and made those claims.
Eyewitnesses.
No, sir. Those individuals are not themselves eyewitnesses.